Hi, Kathy. Thank you so much for having us join you here at the Haven offices. We're very excited to hear your story. Could you tell us how the organization has been impacted during the pandemic and what you've done to pivot in the challenging times?
Sure. Actually, since the start of the pandemic, it's been really difficult for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. What we saw from the very beginning was hearing from current clients about how their increased isolation at home was really making it so that they were further unsafe and their abuse was escalating. You know, where sometimes they may have had some respite to leave or have the abuser leave and reach out and get help, we found that they couldn't, and that it was really difficult. So we had to get creative, and we had to come up with ways that we could be available to all survivors during that time of difficulty and increased isolation. One of the things that we did was we immediately implemented a chat feature, because that allowed folks to be sitting at their computer and looking like they were working with the abuser right maybe in the right same room, and be able to reach out and get support. It's not an ideal way to get support, and oftentimes we would talk to folks and say, could you get to a phone and be able to talk to us versus typing back and forth, and many times they just couldn't, and so that really was their lifeline to getting some help and some support. The other thing that we saw was that there were more people that needed our emergency shelter, and with our shelter being so small and communal living, we had to get creative and figure out an alternative shelter model. So we worked with the hospitality industry and did an alternative emergency shelter model through hotels, where we could put people there who are fleeing abuse and try to provide wraparound services and help them out and get that additional safety and support. But our shelter is more than just a roof over people's heads. So in terms of getting creative to be able to provide that support and the ongoing camaraderie of being with other survivors, that's really what our shelter is all about, is helping people get to safety and self-sufficiency through support of the staff and the other folks that are living in the shelter as well.
And is there a story that you can share with us of one of the clients who was assisted through some of your pivoting this year?
Sure. You know, that shelter model alternative really wasn't the best, and one of the things we did last year was we got flowers for everybody who were moms staying in either our shelter or the hotels. And one of the women that was staying in the shelter, who was pregnant, we were able to provide her with those flowers, and she actually said, do you mean that there's other people that are going through this as well? Because in that model, she wasn't aware of the other folks that were utilizing our shelter services. But then once we were able to modify our current shelter and have families coming back in there, she moved into our shelter and had her baby and has been living in our shelter. And now through our housing program, where we link people up who are no longer in imminent danger to safe permanent housing, she will be moving into her new home with her baby. And it's just, I mean, it shows you kind of how difficult it's been for survivors, but it also presents that hope that's available for folks to be free and safe from abuse.
Kathy, thank you so much, and thank Haven for all the work you do for our community. The Giving Circle is so happy to support your efforts, and we really appreciate what you do.
Well, and we appreciate the community's support and the Seacoast Women's Giving Circle, because we couldn't do what we do without that support. So thank you for all you do in keeping people safe and free.
Thanks.